really excited to be a part of this program, this informational session, because I actually live in Gresham Barlow School District. I have kids in the district, so it's near and dear to my heart, along with apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. So hopefully we can get this going for you guys.
Yes, and again, my name is Gabby Sloss, and I'm with the Oregon Department of Education and also the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. I work primarily in work-based learning and apprenticeship and liaison with the Bureau of Labor and Industries as well, focused on aligning systems around secondary, post-secondary opportunities for learners in Oregon and aligning them with registered apprenticeship. And so today, just wanted to reiterate and hopefully remind everyone here, we appreciate your time today. There is no expectation that you need to have your cameras on, fully engaged. We understand things come up. You have small children, dogs, cats, family members, whatever you need to do or around you that serve as other distractions. And those are very important, and please feel free to take care of those. We are recording this session in hopes to share it and be part of the training suite that we will talk about in a little bit on the OregonApprenticeship.org website. But please feel free to not show yourselves if you don't feel like it. Don't unmute yourselves. If you have a comment, you can put it in the chat. We have various different ways for you to be engaged today. And we just, again, appreciate you all being here for today. The outcomes for the session, which we have here on the screen, again, is really to learn about registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship in Oregon. Like many states, Oregon gets to decide how they want to do registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, and it's not like all the other states. So we'll go into depth a little bit more about registered apprenticeship here in Oregon, along with tools about how to talk about apprenticeship, hopefully helping create more definition around terms and understanding about terms when it comes to registered apprenticeship. In addition, we're hopefully going to be helping you make those connections between the pathways from pre-apprenticeship to registered apprenticeship and the benefits there, along with some additional resources for you all to Oregon, depending on where you're at and what your roles are at your specific institutions. Hopefully today is helping you feel more confident in promoting registered apprenticeship as a career pathway to the populations that you serve, along with interfacing with the systems as well. So, not sure if people had a chance to see the message about going to pollev.com/ oh, it's gone. Gabby Sloss 094. This is new. I apologize if it doesn't work. If you feel more comfortable just putting in the chat, if you are one of these representatives, just let us know. But you should be able to go to that poll and it's active and you can respond. I have 2 results. Oh my gosh, activate now. Okay, I'm activating it. So we'll take 2 minutes here for people to go there. Like I said, not a requirement. Thank you for being our guinea pigs. It is one other platform that I am not familiar with. So for just a second, if you want to go there and let us know who you represent, that would be great.
I also just want to say really quick what Gabby said about not needing to unmute yourselves or typing in the box, having your cameras off. That's totally great, but we do want to hear from you. We understand that the apprenticeship world is a kind of a new language, a new world for a lot of people, and we sometimes skip over things that we know like very well, or we use words that you might not know. Please ask us questions. You can unmute your mic and interrupt us. You can type it into the chat. We'll give you our contact information. You can email us later. But we do want to hear from you. We want to know how it's going, if you're hearing us, and so forth. So, and I also
Thank
have
you.
children that are running around, so we understand that as well.
Absolutely. So it looks like we have some good representation. I don't know what we're doing here, but I'm just going to click on this. I see in the chat we've got someone from community colleges, a couple of states. I see okay, the poll isn't active, so I don't know how to make it more active than I thought I made it. So we've got community college. Someone was able to enter that. Oh, 17%. Thank you. 20. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's working. Thanks for your patience. Awesome. Great. So we've got some healthy numbers here. Glad to see many of you here today. And this will be to a pretty robust conversation, I think, and some really good discussion. So thank you for being here today. And then we have one more. Your understanding of apprenticeship. And I'm going to activate this now. Sorry for the, well, I'm not sorry. I just thought of water temperature, and I thought that was a really good way to find out your understanding of Oregon apprenticeship. Tepid is you're just putting your foot in the water and don't know. Warm is, oh, it feels good, but I'm not sure that I'm going to go in any further. Simmering is you got it down, but you really want to brush up and maybe meet some people here. Boil, this is, you know, your life's blood, and you know what's going on, and you're excited to be here to share information. And then maybe it's none of the above, which is great. Give a couple more minutes, or a minute here, just to let everybody answer.
It says it's waiting on you again.
Okay, sorry. I think I activated it now.
I think there's just a little bit of a lag from once you hit activate.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting results now. Awesome. Great. Well, we've got a really good range of experience, knowledge, expertise. And so I think this is gonna really help with this presentation today, this time with us in this discussion. So a quick plug for Oregon Apprenticeship. We want to let you know that Oregon Apprenticeship is made up of 4 state agencies that are working together to bring registered apprenticeship and career apprenticeship to the forefront of a potential career pathway for learners in Oregon. The Employment Department, the Department of Education, Higher Education Coordinating Commission, and the Bureau of Labor and Industries are all working together to make apprenticeship a preferred workforce training model, but also an option for our learners to consider when they're thinking about transitioning from high school to whatever post-secondary opportunity they desire. I believe Kristen and Liz mentioned this earlier, but just wanted to give a bit of an overview. The Oregon has been the recipient of several federal grants over the last few years focused on growing and expanding registered apprenticeship. And through those activities and some of those grant deliverables, we have developed what we heard from the field as a big need was how to bring these opportunities to our rural areas in the state. So our goal with this technical assistance webinar series is to do just that. As Kristen mentioned, Today, we're going to be talking about basics, the Apprenticeship 101. And then Tuesday, we'll be bringing in some people who have representatives, their own pre-apprenticeship programs that follow different program models and designs. So you'll learn more details about how those programs came about, the lessons learned and promising practices, and hopefully answer your questions about the finer details or those details around how to develop a pre-apprenticeship program. And then on Thursday, we will end the series about the state certification process, how to become an Oregon State Apprenticeship and Training Council registered pre-apprenticeship program. So we are going to start this conversation off with a video, and we will, hopefully you can all hear it, and we'll be right back.
You may have heard about registered apprenticeship, a training model that combines paid on-the-job training with classroom instruction. Registered apprenticeship is that and so much more. It's a powerful tool that can provide sustainable, long-term solutions to critical workforce supply issues. And it has the potential to solve many of the talent and training challenges faced by employers, career seekers, youth, and the organizations that serve them in Oregon. In this video, you'll learn more about registered apprenticeship and its 5 core components: employer customization and control, structured on-the-job training with mentoring, related training and instruction, rewards for skill gains, and a nationally recognized industry credential. We'll also cover how apprenticeship programs are operated in Oregon and how you can get involved. In the registered apprenticeship model, employers develop a structured training and education pathway based on industry standards to serve the needs of their business. Programs can be implemented by an individual business or multiple employers working together. All registered apprenticeship programs in Oregon are overseen by a group of industry representatives called the Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee that ensures the program is employer-created and controlled. With assistance from the Bureau of Labor and Industries, educators, and other workforce partners, the Apprenticeship Committee builds a training ladder to fit the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to achieve mastery in a given occupation. Registered apprenticeship can help solve many common workforce challenges for businesses, such as recruiting young entry-level workers, teaching specialized skills, creating a diverse workforce, and replacing essential talent within a company. Registered apprenticeship is available to employers in all industry sectors, including construction, manufacturing, healthcare, IT, and professional services. Registered apprentices make a serious long-term commitment that puts their learning on par with a college education. In fact, related instruction and on-the-job training can be awarded college credit, which can lead to an associate's degree. And apprentices can be confident that the instruction they receive will be applicable on the job because they are mentored by experts in their field. As apprentices progress their programs, their wage increases. In fact, apprenticeship graduates start out at higher wages than most first-year college grads. Upon completion of a program, they are considered subject matter experts and receive a nationally recognized industry credential. Best of all, apprenticeship can be for anyone. Because on-the-job learning and performance is at the heart of its training, the apprenticeship model allows many kinds of learners to be successful in both learning and demonstrating their skills. Registered apprenticeship is a shared investment in a long-term talent pipeline. Apprentices and employers must commit equally to make the program a success. Employers invest in employees by providing structured on-the-job training, mentorship, and wages for the apprentice. In addition to working, apprentices invest their time in classroom training. In some cases, they may pay for their own books and tuition. Registered apprenticeship programs are supported by many organizations that help train individuals for work or prepare job seekers for rewarding careers. These entities are committed partners, assisting employers in sourcing talent, administering programs, and providing training and/or curriculum support. Partners can participate by recruiting and supporting apprentices, helping employers convene and develop apprenticeship programs, helping employers navigate administrative and reporting requirements, or by providing classroom instruction. Registered Apprenticeship is a dynamic, responsive training model that helps businesses, educators, and workers rise to meet the challenges of a rapidly changing marketplace. Don't get left behind. Choose Registered Apprenticeship today.
All right. So I'm going to hand this over now to Sarah, who is going to touch on a little bit more about registered apprenticeship. And Sarah, take it away.
Okay, so I did first just want to touch on, we're giving you a whole lot of apprenticeship information because it's key to understand, to have a good pre-apprenticeship program to understand exactly what you're preparing people for. So that's why all this apprenticeship information is necessary, and we're going through it first. So apprenticeship is a combination model. It's classroom learning combined with work-based learning, and combined with workplace learning. So these circles are equal on the outsides, the classroom learning and the workplace learning, but in actuality, apprenticeship is a lot more on the job hours-wise than in the class, but it's all combined. And it is a really amazing model for students that really like the hands-on, the CTE classes and that kind of stuff. So because it does combine the work-based learning, so it is an integral part of what they are training to become. So employer in apprenticeship, employer involvement is integral. I can't speak, sorry. Anyhow, it's very important. There has to be an employer, and these, we're going to talk a little bit more about the employer's roles. So different apprenticeship programs are structured differently, but there has to be an employer that is a registered training agent, is what we call them. So it's a registered training agent and they're registered through the Bureau of Labor and Industries. The structured on-the-job training with mentoring. So all apprenticeship programs are at least 2,000 hours. Okay, I need to backtrack a little bit, actually. There's different kinds of programs. So time-based programs are all 2,000 hours. And there's also competency-based. I will talk more about that in a little bit, but most apprenticeship programs are 2,000 hours minimum. So they're on the job for at least 2,000 hours, which is a year, essentially. And they're learning the on-the-job training with a mentoring journey person. So with somebody who is a journey level of that trade. They're related training instructions. So programs are required to have 144 hours of related training per year. A lot of programs have significantly more. Some are most are somewhere around 144 hours a year, but there are programs that do, 260 hours a year or more. And then reward for skills gains. So apprenticeship is set up so that as you move through the program and learn the skills both on the job and in the classroom, there are built-in increases in wage as you go. So you are rewarded as you move through the program. And apprenticeship, the way that the increases in wages go, as an apprentice, you gain those wages much quicker than you would just in a typical job situation where you're waiting for an increase. It's usually about every 6 months that you get an increase in pay as you move through apprenticeship programs. And then once you complete an apprenticeship program, you get the National Occupational Credential. So you get in the state of Oregon, you get a journey worker card in the trade that you trained in, and that is, it's recognized nationwide as a journey level card.
So in Oregon, our partnership system looks something like this. And to what Sarah spoke to about registered apprenticeship, BOLI's role, the Bureau of Labor and Industry and the Apprenticeship and Training Division, along with the Oregon State Apprenticeship and Training Council, that's this deeper blue color here, where they work and provide the registration process, work with employers and businesses around developing their standards for particular occupations, but also make sure that we're following the guidelines that have been set both at the federal and state level departments of labor. The related training, certificates and degrees and instruction that she spoke to, that's where we see a lot of our community colleges, some of our community-based organizations, and also some other training programs. But that's where a lot of our programs, they go to their community colleges and turn to them to help with that curriculum development, the certificate alignment and degrees, along with adult basic skills programs and aligning to those outcomes, student learning outcomes as well. Then we have the on-the-job training where, as Sarah said, and we'll hopefully be reiterating a lot during these next few days in these webinar series, that it is imperative that you have business and industry at the table who will be providing not only the on-the-job training, but they also are employing these apprentices. They are making sure that they are mastering the skills and work processes that they've agreed to do in that training program, and ultimately will be employing them through this training program. So this is, we can't stress this enough, is that employer and business engagement, especially those that are going to be either creating a new program or a part of a existing joint apprenticeship and training committee, are involved in the process from day one. And then there's the workforce system that also plays a role in helping and supporting programs being developed. Here in Oregon, we do a lot around sector strategies and aligning our programs with sector strategies, workforce needs, and areas where we know that there will be a workforce shortage or boom, and really trying to have our programs either shift with that, align with that, or try to develop new ones to address those needs. Sarah, do you want to continue? Okay.
Sure, yeah. So apprenticeship is huge in Oregon. It's funny because a lot of people have never even heard of it, but currently there's more than 150 programs, and then there's more than 10,000 apprentices. And this number grows by at least 500, sometimes more a year. And that means that, you know, not only are apprentices completing, but we're bringing in consistently more and more and more apprentices every year. There's currently 29 pre-apprenticeship programs, and that number has skyrocketed. In the last 2 years, I think 2 or 3 years ago, there was 9 total registered pre-apprenticeship programs, and they were mostly community-based. So they were your Oregon Tradeswomen, Constructing Hope, and a couple other Portland Youth Builders. So the big community-based programs. So the 29, so most of those new programs that have come in are education related. So they're tied to a high school, a community college, or something else like that. I think in Salem, I think there's 9 or 10 of them just in the Salem school district right now. So that is huge, and it's just continuously growing. And then there's almost 5,000 employers that are tied in. So in the 150 programs, there's at least 5,000 employers. And that number is a little bit hard to track because some employers are registered to you know, multiple programs. And so I think this is maybe counting the same employer 2 or 3 times, but sorry, life. Anyhow, so there's employers who, you know, are registered to a heavy equipment program, and also a carpenter's program, and also a laborer's program, and concrete finishers, and so forth and so on. So you know, 5,000 employers is a lot. So many Oregon employers are involved in apprenticeship and training programs.
So just pause here for a second and see if there's any questions, comments. I don't see anything in the chat, but we'll just give a moment here to see if anybody has any questions.
Sarah, I got a quick question. How do employers get to be registered? So I'm thinking like in the future, if we have a partnership with a person who does HVAC and they're great, they take students and they're not registered to be part of the pre-apprenticeship thing, is that an easy thing for them to get to do?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily an easy answer because it depends on the program that they're wanting to register to. So the best thing to do would be to direct them back to us, to ATD, Bureau of Labor and Industries, or get on our website and look up the different existing programs for that trade. And then almost all of the trades have kind of both a union and open shop, different programs for each kind of trade. So they can pick a program that basically fits best with their employment model and how they train, and then they would get in contact with that program to find out how to apply. But typically it's just, meeting with the program administrator and, filling out an application, and the administrators would make sure that they're a good fit for the program. But what's happening a lot now too is that employers are finding that there's not the exact trade that they want to join or the exact program that would fit them well. And so they're in the construction trades, they have to team up with another employer, but they're starting new programs. So there's new programs starting all the time. And it's not, I don't want to downplay, like it's not super easy to do that, but we can help, walk companies through that kind of stuff. But just applying to a program is, it's basically just a little bit of paperwork and they can apply. So.
Okay, we can continue. You ready, Sarah?
Yes. So like I said before, not only is apprenticeship kind of a whole new world, it comes with a whole new language and lots and lots and lots of acronyms. So, you're going to hear, we'll say BOLI, we'll say TAs, OJT, all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to decipher sometimes. So we did throw up just some obvious ones. An apprentice is someone who is registered in an apprenticeship program and they're learning their trade by working under the supervision of a journey worker. Now this one does get a little bit confusing because some companies do their own kind of internal training and they may call that person an apprentice, but technically in Oregon they're not a registered apprentice. So sometimes you'll hear somebody talking and they're talking about their apprentices and you're thinking, oh great, you're a training agent, you train apprentices, so forth, and they just are doing some kind of in-house training, and that's what they call them. So when we refer to apprentices, we refer to apprentices who are registered through the state, and they're registered apprentices. And then a journey worker, so this is still, sometimes you're going to hear journeyman. We have taken all of that kind of individual language out of all of our stuff, but it's the same thing. So it just means a subject matter expert. And it is someone who has completed an apprenticeship program, but the people don't technically have to have completed an apprenticeship program to be considered a journey worker necessarily. With licensed trades, they typically have completed an apprenticeship program either in Oregon or another state and have come in and gotten that license, so that electrical license, that plumbing license here in Oregon. But in some of the unlicensed trades, it's usually someone who has worked in the trade at least 3 years or longer, but they don't technically have to have completed an apprenticeship program always, but it is a subject matter expert in the trade. On-the-job training, or OJT, this is hours that are gained while working on the job under supervision. And then a JATC, so this is a Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee, and these are the committees that are responsible for running, maintaining apprenticeship programs. They are joint programs in Oregon because construction trades in Oregon have to be more than one employer. So they have to join together and join and create a committee. Now there are several and a growing number of TATCs, and those are trades training programs. And that's when multiple trades join together. So typically a JATC is like all carpenters or all heavy equipment operators or all, whatever that trade is. But sometimes there are, there's programs specifically in like Eastern Oregon or Southern Oregon, where it's really hard for them to find more than one company to join. And so they can create a committee with, you know, the Ontario one is the one that I usually think of, but they're, I think, plumbers and electricians and carpenters or something like that. So that's a thing too. So I talked about this a little bit earlier, but the wage structure for our apprenticeship program, this is kind of, actually, I think this one is a little bit not standard. A lot of them are every 1,000 hours they move to the next term, all the way through their apprenticeship program. So there's never a time in an apprenticeship program where they're not moving up and moving into the next term. We call that re-rating. It's kind of a weird term, but that means a raise, essentially. And as they gain the skills, knowledge, and ability for each term, so they've done classes and they've been on the job for 800 hours or 1,000 hours, whatever the requirement is, then they move up in wage. So every year the programs are required to tell us what the average journey worker is making in their in that trade for that program, and then the apprentice gets the percentage of that as they move through the term. So they'll start at 40 or 50%. Some programs start at 85%, and they move up roughly 5% about every 6 months is what it works out to be. Occupational options. Okay, so the next slide is going to show you a very short, abbreviated list of occupational options. And this is, these are all on this list. These are all construction trades, but apprenticeship in Oregon is branching out. It's moving in all different directions. And this is, like I said, a very abbreviated list of the occupations that are available in Oregon. There is basically anything in the trades that you want to get into, there's an apprenticeship program for. There's even a program for pile divers, which are you know, a version of carpenters where they dive down in the water to like set the pilings and stuff like that. So there is a crazy amount of things that people can do in Oregon. So, and new ones include like in the IT industry, we're doing a new CNA program as we speak. So the nursing industry, there's a lot of industrial trades like machinists and millwrights and that kind of stuff. So there's tons. Washington State does all of the like esthetician programs and stuff like that. Those are licensed, so I don't think in Oregon they will become apprenticeship programs, but there's a lot out there, and it's an ever-growing number. The current labor commissioner is super invested in creating trades outside of the construction industry, and so that's happening, and it's happening pretty quickly. There's even a firefighter one in the works, so there's just a lot going on. In the United States, there's more. There's even more. Like I mentioned Washington, but we're working towards all of these things in Oregon too. So we would love to see a lot of the IT stuff that's happening come here, and then a lot of the medical healthcare related stuff like that too.
Don't worry, I'm just looking.
I touched on this a little bit earlier when I had to stop and go back and say, okay, wait, not everybody has to be in an apprenticeship program for a full 2,000 hours. Most programs are time-based programs, so it is a number of hours or years in school combined with a number of hours on the job. And that's what this is. It's just kind of a stepped training where they're getting their training in school, their classroom training, and then they're also getting this piece of on-the-job training for a number of hours, and they're moving through the program until they get their certificate at the end. And then there's competency-based apprenticeship model. So this is new to Oregon. It's always been something that everybody's kind of wanted to do. It fits a lot of different programs really well. But it hadn't been implemented. But the federal government is really big on competency-based programs, and because there's federal standards for it, we're able to kind of start incorporating it. So there's new standards currently in the works getting approved that are going to change how things are done entirely in Oregon, in my opinion, and I think it's a great idea. So there's still the training. It's set up so that, but instead of set up in like just a flat number of hours, it's all credentialed. So as they move through the credentials, then they can complete the program. So it could take them 4 years. It could take them 1 year. The federal model does say 12 calendar months that they have to be in the program. So it's probably never going to be shorter than that. But if they're in a program that doesn't allow for a huge number of on-the-job training hours, but they're in but it's 12 months, then they can still do it, you know, before they reach 2,000 hours. So it doesn't really have anything to do with time-based. It's all credentialed learning. And then there's front-loaded apprenticeship models. So we do have one of these, and it's the IT program that's out of Southern Oregon. And they do all of their training up front. And then they move them into kind of a midway where they're still doing some training, but they're on the job also, and then they work entirely on the job. So it's more of like I guess it'd be like an intern program, more like that. These are kind of hard. They're a little bit hard to set up because the related instruction that's up front is typically not paid. So you have a period of time where people are going through training, but they're not on the job. They may not have a job, and so it kind of depends how it gets set up, how successful it is. But it is definitely an option. It's utilized a little bit more in Washington State, so it is being used, and I think we're going to see more of this coming down the line too. Okay, so key roles in registered apprenticeship. So the employers are the ones that are doing the on-the-job training. That's always the case, but they also fit into these other categories as well. So all programs have to have employers. The employers are the ones that are driving the design. So they're the subject matter experts. They're the ones that are going to set up and be on the committees. And they're the ones that are going to say, this is the kind of training that needs to happen to make this person a journey level, whatever trade that they're going into. The sponsor or the administrators. So if you have a small program, this could be the employer. A lot of programs hire administrators or have administrators that are other than their employers or their JATCs. So these are the people that are responsible for administering the programs. They're the people that are making sure that your program is following the rules and regulations that are set up by the state. So they're doing all the paperwork. They're usually the person that's in contact with the state, with us, to make sure that people are getting registered. Again, it can be an employer. It could be a group of employers. It can be an industry association. It can be a joint labor management organization. So that's like a union program would have like their joint labor. They manage it. And then in many cases, a lot of the community colleges, so educational or training providers, they can administer the programs. And then also CBOs or other workforce intermediaries can administer programs. So there's nothing that says that it has to be this person or that person. It can be a number of different people, and it kind of depends on how the program is set up, how big it is, how many employers you have involved in it. And then supportive services, so they bring together a range of entities that complement the programs. Gabby, do you want to jump in on that one? You know a lot more about supportive services and RTI.
Yes, for supportive services, especially for those of us on the webinar today, that's a range from including driver's ed, getting a driver's license, to working on math and reading proficiency, to, in addition, making sure that you have the correct tools and equipment to help you when you get into a registered apprenticeship program or while you're in a registered apprenticeship program. In addition, there are services to support getting reimbursed or your tuition covered for your related instruction, along with any other things you might need for books, registering for classes, things like that. So support services, it really depends on the target population that you're working with, in addition to the registered apprenticeship programs, sponsors, and what they're willing to help support so that the apprentices are retained and persisting through that program. The educational provider or that related training instruction, again, it can be employer industry based. We have several union and non-union programs that don't work with community colleges, but they do provide the related instruction in-house. But there are also programs that do have community college or outside journey workers, instructors come and do the related instruction. So that's also an option. It can be joint labor management organizations, community colleges, or others, as long as whatever's being taught is related to the standards that's being applied and being looked at for that particular program and meeting those outcomes. Okay, so any questions, comments? I haven't seen any in the chat, so either we're throwing a lot of information at you and everybody's trying to digest it. No problem. We're going to get into some more information here as we get into pre-apprenticeship. So thanks for hanging in there with us. So pre-apprenticeship, really in some ways like this graphic because it shows and highlights many different ways that learners can go through career pathways. Now this is not all-encompassing and not comprehensive. We realize that. However, it does show many different paths or options that learners can take, whether they're from a high school program, a traditional comprehensive program, a GED, or other equivalents, also adult basic ed, and going through these pathways and these choices. Yes, Oregon, like many other states, continue to deal with a message of four-year college. And apprenticeship is here also to echo it's college and career. It's not either or. Depending on who you speak to in the environment or the community, registered apprenticeship was the original four-year degree. So there's a lot of different ways, as we know, a lot of people here on the call today, a lot of different ways and options for our learners to get into the workforce, but also have a livable wage and income and be successful in their communities. And it doesn't always have to be just a four-year degree. So you might hear these terms a lot in terms of pathways to registered apprenticeship, or even in this case, in this conversation, career pathways for young people especially, is internships, pre-apprenticeships, and youth apprenticeships. Currently, youth apprenticeship is really being used across the country as, I think, the new term for internship. It's paid. However, they're vastly different, especially here in Oregon, when it comes to regulations, compliance, and what they really are supposed to be aligned to and outcomes for learners. In an internship, it is part of the graduation requirement here in Oregon, whether it's under the personalized learning, career-related learning experiences. An internship, whether it's paid or unpaid, is a part of that grouping for career-related learning experiences under personalized learning for the education plan and profile portion of the graduation requirements here in Oregon. It does focus on professional, academic, and technical skills. It can make connections to the world of work. But we do know that there are some inequities and that not every student has access to an opportunity like that, or the quality of that experience. We do not have a framework for making sure that it is a quality experience. The benefits of that internships, as we know, just to name a few, is that it is an introduction to the world of work. It can be student-led in terms of their interests, and also helps align to explore careers. There are potential frameworks set up in different regions where there's job placement, interview and assessments, and other supportive services to help usher that learner on to that next phase after they've completed. And it can be paid or unpaid. Youth apprenticeship, we don't have currently any registered youth apprenticeship programs in the state of Oregon. Yes, these programs were, we had a lot more historically. However, as requirements for being a registered youth apprenticeship program became more restrictive, so that people were remaining safe, and students were addressing their student learning outcomes and trying to benefit employers, along with demands from employment of trained workforce now and development of future workforce. It was becoming more red tape and a hassle to try to set something up than it was to try. That is not to say that youth apprenticeship is not welcome in Oregon. We just have found over the years that with youth apprenticeship, as it mirrors adult apprenticeship or registered apprenticeship, it's a big lift. You do have to have, like a registered apprenticeship program, a joint apprenticeship training committee. You do have to have training agents at the table. You are paying youth to spend their time on shop floors, depending on which trade they're in. You are doing workplace technical and soft skills training, and the benefits of that are hours earned towards that youth apprenticeship, since it will be directly aligned to that registered apprenticeship and occupation. The hours that they gain in the youth apprenticeship will count towards their registered apprenticeship program. So as Sarah mentioned, you could be in construction and in maybe a pipe fitter, and you're in a youth apprenticeship program that is in pipe fitting. The hours that they do at that pre-apprenticeship level will carry over into that registered apprenticeship pipe fitter program. And it's possible to end a little sooner, complete that program sooner, and complete your related instruction. And then we come, and the benefits of that, it does allow those under 18 to start in registered apprenticeship, to start gaining hours, in addition to being able to work with those ever elusive hazardous work orders equipment that we know with child labor laws, and some of the barriers that we face with internships or creating experiences for young people on the shop floor, that because of it's a training program along with being tied to student learning outcomes, that becomes viable in certain situations. It is a paid experience. It is a competency-based experience. It also meets academic and graduation requirements and can also meet dual credit requirements as well. So then why pre-apprenticeship? What would be the benefits if it's not any internship or youth apprenticeship? And why do we see an increase in the state right now around pre-apprenticeship programs, especially in high school, and especially with our career technical education programs in the state? Well, it's because it is just that. It's preparing young people or other populations that we don't necessarily see, and we're trying to recruit and retain and keep those populations in registered apprenticeship. So we're talking about females, people of color, people experiencing disabilities. It's trying to prepare them that for those that either have no experience or exposure to the trades, so that they can be prepared and be seen as a qualified applicant into a registered apprenticeship program at the entry-level position. And so you're working on and brushing up on basic safety, hand and power tools. You're going to be doing work site field trips and guest speakers, working on projects to be more comfortable working with tools and equipment. You're also going to get, like we mentioned, those support services around attainment of a driver's license, If you need to improve your skills around math and reading and that proficiency, that's where that time can be spent. In addition to, we have programs that talk about culture and dealing with bullying and sexual harassment on the job site, and preparing people to be on the job site and knowing what to do and how to maneuver those situations for themselves, and with those that are on the work site are responsible for that. And it really, again, it's an introduction to the trades. It's opportunities to obtain education and career readiness training. Programming can be free depending on the model and where it currently resides. And it assists with job placement, apprenticeship enrollment, and other support services. Most pre-apprenticeship programs currently are unpaid. It doesn't mean that it necessarily has to, but in the state it is unpaid, and depending on the program, they may be funded to provide all the services, the training, the tools and equipment for those that are enrolled, and the participants don't have to pay anything to participate. I'm going to stop right here because I know I see a couple of questions in the chat. And Sarah, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add, and I'll take a look at the questions.
I was just going to add that, you know, there's often the question, well, we're already doing CTE, we're already preparing students for, you know, the next step, and, you know, these kids probably aren't going to go to college, you know, but we're getting them ready for the industry, and why become a registered pre-apprenticeship program? And there's a couple of different answers. One, you're already doing it. It's easy. So it's like a credential for your kids that they would not have, for your students that they would not have had if it wasn't a registered program. But I think the biggest one is that that it assists with job placement and apprenticeship enrollment. Pre-apprenticeship programs have to have partnerships with registered apprenticeship programs. And so they, sorry, my son is in class at the same time. Anyhow, so but they have to have partnerships. And so you have that relationship. Your students are going to have that relationship with probably multiple apprenticeship programs that they're either going to field trips to like see the programs in the shops and where they train, or the programs are sending employers in. So there's additional support. And so your students are going to graduate with their pre-apprenticeship, you know, certificate, and they're going to have either direct entry or much easier entry into the apprenticeship programs that you partner with.
Thank you. So what is pre-apprenticeship? And as I just mentioned, it is a preparatory program that prepares people who want to eventually enroll in a registered apprenticeship program. It can provide insights into apprenticeable occupations, prepares participants for the working environment in a given group, and then also developing basic trade skills. And it's a prep program for career and apprenticeable occupation. We could add on here as well that it should be considered as another step for any type of career, for whatever the learner is looking to do. It doesn't have to be just registered apprenticeship. Quality pre-apprenticeship programs, as we'll get into further here in a minute, really do address both college and career, or that career readiness training. Everything from job interview skills, resume building, to showing up on time, and being ready to work, and then also working on how on those technical skills and academic skills that we touched on earlier. So who can be pre-apprenticeship providers? These are just a few that we came up with, and that we see currently in Oregon, and who are running pre-apprenticeship programs at the moment. So we've got community-based organizations. We've touched on high school CTE programs of study, or CTE centers, community colleges, Job Corps, Youth Build, and even juvenile detention centers. We could put on here as well adult detention centers, as we do have registered apprenticeship programs in those systems as well. So I'll pause there for a quick second to see if anybody wants to ask a question or comment. Okay. So a quality pre-apprenticeship program, we talk a lot about CTE in this conversation because the framework and the standards that are required both at the CTE level align very nicely with registered apprenticeship framework and what is required. And so we are trying to leverage what currently exists and not having to recreate the wheel, but to leverage what we have so that students have other opportunities to engage with the system and not have to do something on top of going to school, playing sports, being in student leadership organizations, or just dealing with being a learner and going back home and whatever awaits them there. So when we talk about CTE and registered apprenticeship, you can see here there's alignment between the standards and content, accountability assessment, support services, along with alignment and articulation and related instruction. So when we talk about pre-apprenticeship instructional models, this is really talking about how much alignment there is with the curriculum that is being taught to with the standards of that occupation. And even though these terms that you see here are not used broadly or widely right now, this is just a way to talk about the different models that you can see, what we currently have, and also to use in future conversations if you decide to move forward with developing a pre-apprenticeship program. And so when we talk about full alignment, and I believe I saw in the chat from Janine about direct entry, full alignment really is that. It's that direct entry. It's got direct alignment both at the instructional level and curriculum level and the program design level. So it really is this entry requirements of an apprenticeship. It's a direct entry. It also meets high school graduation requirements, and it's at the expectation of an entry-level apprentice. And so the hours that is spent on that curriculum in that instructional model of full alignment, those hours will count towards that registered apprenticeship program. When we talk about embedded, this is where a lot of our current CTE programs of study at the secondary level live, where we're trying to, again, leverage and embed registered apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, trades, standard curriculum, which is already in a CTE program of study, but try to embed the conversation around the trades to align with not only the CTE program of study, but those registered apprenticeship sponsors and the standards that they are working towards. You can earn course credit for that. It meets high school graduation requirements, and depending on your partners at the table, you would decide then, maybe it's not direct entry, but it could be preferred entry, along with maybe extra ranking points on an application, things like that. So there are ways to have embedded be just as valuable as a fully aligned instructional model. Then there's substituted, and this is apprenticeship training is delivered outside of a secondary setting. It could be at a post-secondary institution, at a training center, and maybe with other instructors that are journey workers or not tied to the program of study for CTE, and it also is broader. It is optional to receive credit. There might be varying recognition or an industry recognized credential for completion, but doesn't necessarily, and it could meet the requirements for graduation. And then lastly, there's external, and I briefly mentioned this program or this instructional model that's outside of the typical high school experience. So it's there may not be any educational credit to that instructional model. The hours may count towards entry, but that would have to be negotiated and is a little bit more difficult to do so if it's not embedded or aligned with a framework like CTE. However, those do exist. And again, there's a cost to finding out funding-wise in terms of providing credits for learners or apprentices that go through that program. And as I mentioned, then there's the different program models. And just like the last slide, these align pretty well with that last slide. So full articulation, there is no distinction between CTE programs of study and an apprenticeship program. It's that program is the apprenticeship program and vice versa. A student is fully enrolled as an apprentice going to school, and there's direct entry with hours and credits counting towards that program. With preferred entry, it's preparation into an apprenticeship program. You're not fully enrolled, so you're not an apprentice of that particular program. There are formalized agreements that outline what the outcomes are for each student, what that registered apprenticeship sponsor is willing to offer and commit to. And then there's also earned educational credits or hours can apply towards the program or to their educational outcomes. Then there's optional entry. Again, it's preparation that may support entry into apprenticeship, not necessarily the main goal. It's not a direct pathway to apprenticeship, and it's preparation for multiple opportunities or career pathways. And then lastly, exploratory. This is probably more, as it says, it's just exploration of career options that can include apprenticeship. It leads to earning credits for graduation. However, it would not lead to preferred entry into registered apprenticeship. So when we're talking about quality pre-apprenticeship frameworks, we refer to a technical education notification that was written back in 2012 called 1312. However, it was based on Oregon's pre-apprenticeship framework Oregon's pre-apprenticeship framework. And those are the main components that we really tried to base what is considered a quality program on. Now, this is also reflected in the pre-apprenticeship toolkit and application. So if you're interested in applying, you will see many of these bullet points touched on in that application and to build your program around. If you come to Tuesday's webinar, you will find out more about those program designs and how to reach them, but wanted to make sure that people were familiar with and saw this framework. And again, partnerships are what makes these experiences, but also these programs work. And I'm going to have Sarah just mention briefly just what BOLI looks for, especially when they get applications from high schools or education or anywhere really, and what they look for and where to focus. Sarah?
Yeah, you actually have to have a letter of support, or doesn't have to be like an official articulation agreement or something like that, but you have to have a supporting apprenticeship program in order to start your pre-apprenticeship program. So a program that's saying, you know, yes, we support this pre-apprenticeship program. We're either going to offer direct entry or some sort of, you know, modified entry to your graduates, and we have places for them, and so forth and so on. But don't panic, because this is what we're good at. These programs, they want you to have pre-apprenticeship programs. They're constantly recruiting, trying to find new people, new bodies, and this is not only an easier way to have everybody in one room who potentially, wants to go into their trade, but it also, they have some involvement in, making sure that these students are ready to go into the trade, and they know about it. They know about the program before they even come into the office to fill in that application. So they're eager for these programs to start and to be involved, and some of them are very involved, even supplying or helping find curriculum, tools and other stuff for the programs. So we can help you, and it doesn't have to be just one. Some of the apprenticeship programs, that, if you find one that you really like and they may say, well, we only want to partner with you, that, in my opinion, doesn't benefit your students as much as at least having a relationship with other programs or knowing who they are, so you can give that information to your students. A lot of the program administrators are more than happy, more than willing to do presentations, to come talk to your students, to help you get stuff set up, and we can get you in contact with those people. So definitely don't panic. Reach out, get on our website and look for the programs that are already existing. You can start reaching out to them today if you want, shoot an email over to a program administrator and tell them what school you're with and ask them if they have, anything available for you. But we know most of the time where they're headquartered. So like if there's one that's right across the street from your school, or they have a really big employer that works, that is registered to their program that's right across the street or right down the street, then maybe, that program is going to be a better option for you, and we can help you get in contact with.
Yes, thank you. And I think that brings up a good point as well, that there are several people here in the Zoom room today that I know would be more than willing to connect with you, answer questions, or connect you with the right people. I see Meg Kilmer from the Pacific Northwest Carpenters Institute here, Katrina Cloud from the Northwest College of Construction, Don Loomis, who's the Director of Apprenticeship at Mount Hood Community College, and also Angie Gilbert from the Reynolds Learning Academy, who has their own registered pre-apprenticeship program, and Reynolds High School. So there are several folks here, and I apologize if I do not call on those names that I'm familiar with that are here. But please, in the chat, go ahead and share that you're here. But you already have a great partnership and champion list of people in this room, I know, willing and able and wanting to try to see something in this region and across the state. So know that you are not far away. And so considerations, again, get your partners on board early, and not just your partners, but identify those registered apprenticeship sponsors, those industry folks as soon as possible at the beginning. They need to be there from the beginning and through the entire process. If there's a CTE program of study or an industry sector that aligns to a program that you currently have, identify that and start aligning that with any registered apprenticeship programs in your area. And then also contact BOLI's Apprenticeship and Training Division to connect with an apprenticeship representative. They're going to help walk you through and your partners through the application process, what you need to emphasize and consider, along with making sure that that paperwork is filled out completely, which I know all of us are really thrilled about when we need to start something. And then, of course, the purpose of pre-apprenticeship, we just want to highlight and take into consideration. And again, these are things that will be talked about at the next webinar session. How are you using pre-apprenticeship to meet your program goals, to support apprentices in terms of their portfolio development, dual credit options, getting their driver's license or other industry recognized credentials? What are your target populations, your outreach and recruitment methods, and also getting those letters of support and MOUs. So before we start to get to the end here, we just want, again, I don't know if you heard, but there's another webinar workshop on Tuesday, November 10th from 1 to 3. This will be talking about program design. So we hope that we see you all there. And everything that you've seen here today and we've talked about is on the OregonApprenticeship.org website, which just recently got an overhaul, a new facelift, if you will. And so this recording and the recording of the other webinar sessions will be on this website. But this was created for all of you, the users, those that are interested in helping support learners, family members, yourself, in looking for a career or exploring new options or exploring new career pathways that you might not have before. Everything from educational resources and materials that can be downloaded are here so they can use that with your students. There's videos and training materials along with a map of where there's currently registered apprenticeship programs that are looking for people. They have openings and whatnot, and that also includes pre-apprenticeship programs. And as we wrap up, this is a big thank you to all of you and your time today and all the great sharing that's been happening during our time. Right now, there's a general BOLI Apprenticeship and Training Division email. It's not specific apprenticeship representatives at the moment. They are sort of consolidating and trying to find the best person to get in touch with you depending on what you need. So there's that email address, and of course, I'm here as a resource. I'm happy to connect. That is my email address, and happy to continue this conversation offline or more. And then I also would want to make sure that everyone is aware that there are 13 out of the 17 community colleges across the state that make up the Oregon Community College Apprenticeship Consortium. Many of them are like Dawn, who's the director of apprenticeship, and but they are here to help make those connections and support registered apprenticeship at their institutions. You can find their information also at OregonApprenticeship.org, but wanted to make sure that you are all aware that apprenticeship is closer to you and in your backyard, probably a lot closer than you thought. So just wanted to put that out there and just say thank you again. And Sarah, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add. Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Something's happening. I'm going to stop sharing. But we'll
just check
yeah,
the
ahead,
chat
Sarah.
because there's a couple of people who added their contact information in the chat also. But again, that general ATD email box, you're going to get the whole staff from BOLI responding to that one. So so it's a good resource, and we're more than happy to help. This is very exciting for us. We're happy to be a part.
Yeah, I see that there's there's an ask for the presentation link, and Kristen, I think you might address that here in a minute.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a question. For areas that are interested in starting to develop pre-apprenticeship programs, is it better to go to the website and see what kind of apprenticeship programs are available in their area and then begin to think about developing to those? Or for areas that also are seeing a need around IT or healthcare, but there may not be something, there may not be an apprenticeship program yet, what advice do you give to programs thinking about developing pre-apprenticeship programs in areas that are high need, but may not have a lot of apprenticeship programs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We actually get it quite a bit because, a lot of the schools have like restaurant programs or, healthcare and stuff like that. And there's just not a whole lot of apprenticeship programs that exist. There is healthcare now, so we can help you there. And you do need to have a partnership with a program But the good thing about pre-apprenticeship is that you can kind of structure it so that even if it's not a trade or a specific trade, that, you know, like say carpentry, and you teach something related, but it not necessarily exactly that, or multiple trades or something like that. A lot of the programs are still going to get involved in that. So I think it kind of depends on where you're at. Like if you have a really good CTE program set up and stuff already going for you, it may be, you know, then you find a program that fits those needs. And if you don't have anything set up at all, then yeah, I'd start reaching out to apprenticeship programs and maybe develop something that fits both of your needs together. There are programs all over the state too. So, and just because a program isn't located necessarily in like your city or your town, the jurisdiction, the way that we define jurisdiction is very weird. So they may have a training agent that is in, you know, your specific city or town. So, you know, the program itself may be out of Portland or look like it's out of Portland, but I guarantee they're all over the state, and we can help you find a program to partner with. So did that answer your question? I feel like I just rambled and didn't answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So does that conclude our presentation?
Yes, I think so. And we could get once we download this session, we can put it on the Oregon Apprenticeship website, along with sending out the link to folks. And if people want the presentation and the slides, please feel free to email me directly. If there's a large request for it, then we will get a mass email out. But go ahead and email myself and Liz and or Kristen directly, and we'll get the slides to you. No problem.
Gabby, can I just add one thing? I'm sorry.
Please, yes,
Okay,
yes,
sorry.
Angie, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I had to move something for a minute. I just wanted to say, like, when you're asking the questions about, you know, reaching out and starting programs, partnerships with groups, it's helpful to do that, because one of the things you can do is build a steering committee. And then that's the way that we were able to set ours up, is that we just started talking to a bunch of the different apprenticeship programs. And if there is, you know, if it's not an apprenticeship that's in your area, but you have people who are in industry in that area, they might want to be on a steering committee and come on and help you develop that. So I found the development of the steering committees to be a really useful tool in it. And then just not being afraid to ask people for support and help. I mean, this is year 17 for our program, and it started by an apprenticeship coordinator telling me that it was really weird that they helped us with getting a bond passed in our district and canvassing, but we didn't have any apprentices working on the sites that they'd help get a bond passed for. And so he introduced me to a bunch of folks, and then we just developed a steering committee, and it grew from there, and got all the input, and we're able to make that happen. So I highly recommend following that advice that they were giving in terms of, you know, connecting with the people around you and seeing what they do. So anyway, and I'm here if you need help. My information's in the chat, and I'm glad to share how we developed ours and where it's at now and everything too, if people want support around that. That's it. Sorry.
Great, thank you very much, Angie. So are there any final questions before we sign off? And everyone here should have also gotten an invitation to the next two training sessions next week. So if you didn't, you can email me. Actually, I think we're using the same link, so you should be able to access it, but do reach out if you haven't. So any final questions? All right, well, thank you all very much. And thank you, Gabby and Sarah. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for coming, or being, I guess.